welcome to the show, Lori. You are my favorite outdoor photographer, and I get the pleasure of seeing all of your work that you post, at least on Facebook. Thanks for being here. You have some really great stories to share with us about the photography you've taken.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Lisa. I really appreciate you thinking of me and everything. I truly enjoy my photography. It's always just been a passion, but there for a while I was trying to do more family stuff, and I absolutely love doing families and weddings and all of that, just capturing that love and the connection in families. And that's really when I started my photography kind of back
No,
up
wait a minute.
was
You were you were the contracted photographer for a magazine I edited.
right. Yeah,
That's
and I
how we
love
met, got to
that.
work together. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, and Lisa, you're so awesome. So,
Oh, thanks.
um,
And it's interesting too how you can take the pictures you've taken or any picture that you see, and now you've created this other facet of your artistry in the wood burning.
yeah,
It looks really hard to do. Is it as hard as it looks?
yeah,
Yes.
kind of is. I think you have to have a little bit of talent, but on the flip side, I was just playing around and realized I loved it, and it really has become just a passion, another passion, where I've taken like some of my Eagles pictures and created cutting boards and stuff, and it's
And
just
this is all freehand. It's not a laser.
no, it's all done by hand. And I'm not good at equipment. Like, don't give me computers, things like that. I can run my photo editing program, but that's it.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, it's been a huge fun project for me. And I'm just like finding new avenues that I enjoy in my artistic ways, right? I truly enjoy capturing the love and the connection in families, but I had a stroke, and part of my rehab and everything from that, it kind of came out of the blue. And part of my rehab from that was just getting back to doing things I enjoyed, right? And so I was back out trying to shoot and capture wildlife, and the eagles, we have eagles that are here in town, and so I'm able to go out and capture them, not all year round, but like during this time of the year. They're fairly regular in this area, so we're kind of in a flight area for them to come through. And so it just was a way of me to kind of rehab and to be out in nature and exploring and being with the wild animals. It just sets my heart on fire, and I just can't seem to get enough of it. And so I live in northern Colorado, so I'm able to go up to the mountains and get pictures of the elk and the moose and I still haven't seen a mountain lion. I would love to. And wolves, that's my other one I want to see, but I haven't got to those yet, or I haven't been blessed with those yet. So, um, but what I have, what I love about it, Lisa, is when I'm out there, you're just out in nature and you just calm down, and you just, you might be freezing cold sometimes, or, try to wait for that perfect shot, but being out and just watching the animals and just observing them and seeing how they live. And when I'm out, I never, ever, ever want to interrupt what they're doing,
Right. Yes.
looking, right?
That's one of the questions I was going to ask you when we start looking at these pictures. How far away are you? And I once, excuse me, I once had a gentleman on my show quite a while ago, and he was talking about how he does forest bathing, if that's the term. I can't remember if that's the term.
Yeah, I
It's
think
basically like the sounds and the things that we don't hear in everyday life if we live away from the wilderness, but just the way the trees blow in the wind, and maybe the birds that you hear, or even some bees buzzing, whatever it is, how that is healing.
right.
And he spends every Friday as deep in the forest as he can, where most of the time he only sees his own footprints.
Right.
So
That's
they can see
amazing.
why that's healing to you, because it's actually, there's studies about it, let alone just the visuals that you get as a photographer.
Right. And I'm always the one on the hike that's like, oh, look at that. Look at that. I'm never like, let's get there, I'm
True.
always,
Right.
I'm
The
always,
journey, not the
yeah,
destination. Yeah.
yeah. And I always have been, Lisa, just totally engulfed in nature. Like, it's just my place, and so that's where I'm most comfortable. Being up in the mountains, I don't care. I'll get up at 2 in the morning and drive up to the mountains, and so I can be there at sunrise and things like that. I don't know, just sets my heart on fire, and it brings such peace and, I don't know, tranquility to my life that it's just amazing. And then when I get some of these really cool shots and stuff, I've run into really crazy people, which I'm kind of sad about, but it happens, so you have to kind of be careful.
You mean the deeper you go when you're in a remote area by yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
Unsafe people, you mean? Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So you always, no matter where you're at, you always need to be, cautious of where you're at.
That's an interesting little, so are you more fearful of the people you'll run into out there than you are the animals you might run into?
Let's just say I've had more occasion with people
than animals.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about some specific pictures that you sent me and also just talk a little bit of more. You have an oasis in your own backyard. And like you said, you're part of a flight pattern that's pretty interesting. So you really don't have to leave your backyard for some of the things that you do. Well, you do. Okay, we'll be back in just a moment.
Okay.
We're back talking with Lori Jackson. We're talking about your photography, and one of the things I mentioned before we went to break is just your backyard. You've created a real oasis. We'll show pictures of it, and just how that is a place where you are part of the flight pattern of some of these beautiful birds that you've taken pictures of. So did you know that when you bought the house?
No.
And so that started realizing that, and then your backyard, you just made this beautiful space to do some of your work in.
So how that, my gardening at my house has been my lifesaver. It's been where I retreat to when I'm, needing some place to quiet my soul and things like that. I'm an outdoor girl. So like being out in the garden, digging and all that fun stuff, that's just fun for me. And then creating my gardens it's been a work in progress for 30 years. So I absolutely love my gardens. And when COVID hit, and we were all supposed to hunker down, right? I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I'm going to go nuts. I can't go up to the mountains. You can't get into the national parks, so that's when I started making we got 2 puppies that are not puppies and are huge, and they pretty much ruined my grass. So I ended up redoing the entire backyard and made it more just so when I'm out there, I can just sit and relax and enjoy the birds. And so as I was sitting out there relaxing and enjoying the birds during that time frame, I realized that the eagles fly right over my house, and sometimes they just circle right over me. And to me, that's just amazing. We have herons, blue herons, and hawks. I have a Cooper hawk that likes to come get my little birds, but that makes me sad. But, it's how it goes. But it's amazing that we're really in town, but we really have a lot of wildlife that's still available to us. We had baby foxes right at a church parking lot. Like, it was crazy. So there's animals, even though we're here, there's animals all around us. And so the nature here in the town that I live in is just amazing, because we've got 3 different eagles' nest within 5 miles of me. And a mated pair that's been here as long as I can remember. And they're just amazing to capture and watch. And, so many people don't ever even see an eagle. And here I am, and they're in my backyard, literally. And that's just amazes me. So whenever I
wonder, when you say they just fly right around your house, I wonder if they think, well, Lori lives here.
I'm sure they do. They're like, there's that lady with that camera again.
Let's give her a show. So let's talk then. You sent me some really beautiful pictures, and you have fantastic stories that surround them. So I just want you to feel comfortable to just share the whole story about it. And I'll ask you questions if I have them, but you and I exchanged some emails ahead of time. So I like to hear things for the first time, usually on the show. So I only skimmed the stories you have about these photographs because I want it to be for the first time. So I'm interested in hearing about it. And first, we're going to talk about the moose picture that you sent me.
Okay. So the moose was a mama moose and her baby twins, and we were leaving the mountains coming home, and we just topped the top of this pass, and there they were. And I'm like, very, very rarely will you have a moose with twins right next to the road. And so in that instance, we just pulled over and I shot from the truck. I never got out or anything. Like I said, I won't do anything to disturb the animals. Not to say that I haven't had them come upon me, when I'm out in nature and stuff, but we just sat and watched them. And as they dig through the mud to get their weeds and their feed, and to imagine like half of that moose is in that mud pit is phenomenal, because when she got out of there, I almost could have walked right underneath her. So, and I'm short, granted I'm only 5 foot, but they're huge. And I think the biggest thing I think about with moose is people don't realize how big they are. And I think a lot of the times, like when I'm up in the parks and stuff, people get so excited about seeing the live animals and they think, oh, I'm going to go touch it. Oh, Lord, please don't do that. That's not a smart thing to do. And don't get too close. It's not safe for you and it's not safe for them. And you never want to do anything that would disrupt their lives. They're out there trying to survive. That's all they're doing, and they want to raise those babies and get them up and on their own. And, the more you interfere with that, the harder it is for them. And so that I don't like. I like when I go to the Tetons and stuff, I'm like, I totally understand why everybody gets so excited. I'm right there with them, right? But I'm also like, man, give these animals some space. They need to be able to live and survive. But the Tetons are a whole different story. So can't wait to share that one.
So that's a question then about how close you get, because we're showing the grizzly picture now. Anyone who watches this show knows that I'm terrified of bear. And so when I see these pictures, I'm thinking, of course, I know you're not as close as it appears, right? Just like your side mirror, you're not as close as it appears. But how close are you?
It depends, Lisa. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. The picture I submitted to you of $3.99, the up close one profile, that's $3.99. And
I don't know what that means. So what?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
So in the Grand Tetons, there's a lot of grizzlies, and this particular grizzly is extremely famous. She's known throughout the whole world, honestly. She's the oldest grizzly in the park. That she's very tame around people. And she was born in 1996. So she's like 28 this year. Last year, she came out of the den with a cub, one. Prior to that, she was known to having 3 cubs. And 2 years prior, like 2020, she had 4 cubs. At her age, that is like absolutely phenomenal. And she raised all of those cubs until they were a sub-adult, which is when they push them out of the den. So, and that's usually between 2 and 3 years. So, I got to see her new cub this last year, and he's so adorable. But she's amazing, because a long time ago, she had a cub, and the grizzly males will come in and try and kill them. And if they're successful, then it kind of throws the mom back into heat or whatever, and then they will reproduce again. So the male grizzlies know this, so they try and kill the babies. So she lost one of her babies. And after that point, she pretty much, next time she had babies, when the male grizzlies were around, into the crowd she comes. And so she knows she's protected in that crowd because the game wardens are right there, and they're keeping people from being idiots. I hate to say that, but kind of. They're keeping people safe, keeping the animals safe. Really, that's their whole job. But she's amazing. And so that particular shot, I had just discovered her. I was actually coming across the street talking to a photographer who had his tripod set up. And I said, "Hey, what you shooting?" And he goes, "Grizzly, right here." And I took 2 more steps and I was like, whoa, and she is right there. So I was about, this is not recommended. I was about 15 to 20 feet away from her. And I immediately took 2 steps back and went, "Oh my goodness, catch your breath, breathe, you know?" And then I went, "He's in front of me. That's not a good situation, you know?" But she's very tame around people and used to people taking her pictures and stuff. I'm not saying she's not a wild animal. If she wanted to tear into us, we would probably be dead, right? So in that instance, I stayed in the middle of the street shooting her because I didn't want to encroach on her, and she was just moseying on her way. She had just come out of the river and she was dripping wet, and it was barely sunrise. So, but just to be able to watch her and see her size, oh my gosh, like, talk about intimidation, right? Talk about being totally in awe of a creature is phenomenal. And, you know, she really took my breath away. But on the flip side of it, I just was so thrilled with just being there and experiencing her. And then going back this last year and seeing her with her cub and, you know, how she protects them. And it's just amazing at how intelligent she is. She's 28 years old, the queen of the Tetons, and just absolutely incredible history that she has lived this long. And we're praying she comes back out of the den this.
Yeah, I guess you never know every year, right? You know, and we'll have to know that answer. You'll have to text me and let me know when you.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it this year. We've got a lot of things going on. So I'm like, I don't know. With any luck at all, I'm going to make it this year. So
the other picture that you sent me is of the mom with her horses. And tell me about that one.
So that's out at the Sandwash Basin, and that's in northwestern Colorado. And it's kind of desert, high desert. It is high desert. It's a big sandy basin is what it is. And so when you go out there, you need to be very, very careful that you don't go too far in. Or if you are and a storm comes up, you hightail it out unless you have like a small 4-wheeler or something. You're not going to get out. We have a 4-wheel truck and we were out driving during that trip, and it had been a drought for a while, and so we weren't really worried about the weather and stuff. And then the night before we show up, big storm comes through, and I was like, oh, I wonder how that's going to go over for us. Yeah, we didn't get very far. So it becomes like literally kind of like quicksand, and you really have to be kind of careful where you go. And I don't have a 4-wheeler. If I did, I would have never probably left that area for a while. But we got to watch the wild horses, and it was right before they did their roundup a couple of years ago. And the roundup accepts me in ways because I don't think they do it very humanitarianly. You know, it's not maybe the best way to do it. There's controversy whether they even should do it. So that could go either way. But when you're just like out there admiring the horses, and my gosh, what they do to protect each other. And well, the horses were up on that ridge and they had the little baby colt with them. And as soon as they saw us coming, and we were nowhere close. So most of the time, back to your one question, most of the time I have a really big lens. I can be 200 feet away, things like that. I would rather be a little closer than that. I'd rather be about 100 foot away. But, you know, you don't want to disturb them either. So we were shooting from a distance, but it was immediately that stallion knew that there was an intruder, and all of them gathered around and put that baby in the middle of their group. And it took a while. We sat there for quite a while. And I think once they felt like we weren't a threat anymore, then they kind of let him sneak out a little bit. And so I've got a couple shots of him kind of coming through the crowd and stuff. So, but they're just like any other animal. They're about their families, and they're about taking care of each other. And really, isn't that what we're all here for, right? Like, our families are our thing, right?
Right.
And so, I just kind of come back to that I think that's why I'm so passionate about it. Like, animals can teach you so much. And I think we're closer sometimes than we think we are to acting like animals do, but
In a good way.
yeah, in a good way.
Good way.
Sometimes.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want you to tell me about your upcoming gig that you're hoping to get, because I want to inspire people to think, I mean, this is a hobby of yours, but it also, you sell prints, and now you have an opportunity where you might style an entire corporate building in Denver. So let's talk about that when we come back in just a moment.
Okay.
What do you say to people who have this as a hobby, whatever it is they're photographing, and think, well, I might not be able to make a full-time living at it, but you have some opportunities coming up that have built from your career of just continuing to take pictures and continuing to work hard in this hobby?
Right. Yeah, and I would say the biggest thing is, Lisa, if it's something that lights your heart on fire, don't give up on it, right? And I used it for rehab, but it's just my passion. And your passion means something. And even if you only have a fraction of people looking at it or whatever, don't give up on that. That's encouragement. And I'm a true artist. I really am. And so, like, I don't always believe in myself, right? But I got people around me that are like, hey, let's do this. And I'm putting your pictures in the Lincoln Center in Fort Collins. And I'm like, what? So having people believe in you is huge. And I think that means a lot. And it helps you keep going.
And helps you believe in yourself, right?
That's
and
right.
Believe it too.
Right.
Well, I wish you the very best. Let me know privately if you get the gig in Denver. I know that's a huge opportunity for you to style that entire office, and maybe even, the whole building, but let alone maybe some of the other offices within the building. And just people getting an opportunity to see how beautiful it is where you live, and see it through your eye. So thank you for being here, and we'll definitely stay in touch. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate you.